this? Why is the opposition calling this a victory, Adil?
Well, Barkhaji, I think the most significant takeaway from yesterday's ruling is that the government's brazen defiance and contempt for the Supreme Court and for the judgments passed by the Apex Court. Point number one, in the common cause judgment, the Supreme Court had categorically said, by way of a specific mandamus, that the incumbent shall not be given another term. Notwithstanding a direct Supreme Court ruling, the government, in its defiance of the rule of law, gives him not one but two extensions. And by yesterday's judgment, those two extensions have been held to be illegal and invalid in law. But now, coming to the more particular political point, which is the subject matter of your debate, the ED today has become the political arm of the BJP for the purposes of their machinations. It is an ally. It is used as an instrument to achieve their political objectives. So, whether it is the incumbent or it is a successor, not much will change when it comes to the vigor and the enthusiasm to misuse the ED. The fact of the matter today is that the political bosses want to use ED to scare opposition leaders, to foist false cases. The BJP's washing machine formula is all out in public domain. How ED cases are registered, then those leaders switch parties or start supporting the BJP, and those cases just disappear in thin air. Can you seek for a more glaring example of how the agencies are misused by this government? So that's why the Congress party firmly believes that the enforcement directorate is the hound dog. I repeat, the enforcement directorate unfortunately has become the hound dog of the ruling dispensation.
How would this change if what you're alleging is true? Let's assume for a moment, Adil, briefly, because I want to go to Srikanji. What changes after the Supreme Court judgment?
Well, there are two things here. Number one, the government's contempt towards the Supreme Court orders is clear. So, as far as that is concerned, our position stands vindicated that the government was in breach of a specific mandamus by the court. But putting that aside, you are partially correct. Nothing will change on the ground because the ED will be continue. It'll continue to be controlled by the political masters. So the successor perhaps may try to be more loyal than the king. And in an election year, I anticipate, and any right thinking person with an objective lens will anticipate, that the BJP in their desperation will misuse the ED to a far higher level. So therefore, yes, the misuse will continue. And ED is just one institution. I can give you multiple examples of other institutions which have been used.
Let's first look at this particular case and we can come back to you. I want to go to Srikant Karunesh of the BJP. In your state, sir, of Tamil Nadu, you have a big high-profile ED case in the form of Senthil Balaji, who has now become at the center of the controversy with the governor stepping in and directly trying to sack him till the Home Minister had to intervene. And now you have what's come out of the Supreme Court. How do you respond? The ED has been called by the Congress leader as a hound dog of the BJP, an ally of the BJP. How do you respond?
Actually, Congress is celebrating this victory, this Supreme Court verdict as a victory for them. Actually, see, court is a totally independent body corporate, and they are very clear with their decisions. And no political party can celebrate those issues as a victory to them, whether it is favorable to us or non-favorable to us. And as far as we are concerned, we respect the verdict of the court, and then everybody has to abide that, and there is no second opinion about it. And as far as this extension of Mr. Sanjay Kumar Mishraji case, they have told, okay, this cannot be continued, so government has to follow it. But as Congress is telling, no, that I question Congress. They are telling BJP is misusing. Congress during their tenure, can they say that it was not misused? So I don't say with the original use itself, no, when it is offensive to them, they call it a misuse. Whatever government, they have their own rights and their own norms to act on behalf of the government, and they are taking their own steps, whether it is Senthil Balaji or whoever it is. And they fix it, the responsibility on the government, and they say government is misusing that. They are political vendetta. They are taking revenge on the opposition leaders. That's how everybody is telling, because it's not the case. The officers are there. They are all learned people. They know the law, and the court is very much there. The brilliant lawyers are there in India. Nobody can go beyond the law and then do things. And nowadays, with the awareness of social media so much, and
So
this
how do
kind
you
of-
see the court? How do you see the court verdict, sir? Before I go to Mr. PK Jain, how do you see the court verdict? Is it a setback? Is it a setback for the BJP? Is it an embarrassment for the
I said it in
BJP?
my very initial word. No, we should not take it as a setback. We should take it as a guideline for us. So why should you take it as a setback or a blow or a favorable to us, whether it is celebration? We don't consider that way. Court is giving us a guideline. There is a parliament is there. If something has to be changed, the law will be changed by the parliamentarians. So they, as for
Yes.
the available law, court is giving us a guideline, and we will follow it.
That last point is very important, and I want to take that to Mr. PK Jain. In all the noise over the fact that this particular ED chief, Mr. Mishra, will have to demit office at the end of July, what we have actually missed is the Supreme Court has upheld the amendments to the law that will now allow both the CBI and the ED chief to have 5-year terms, up to a maximum of 5-year terms, right? The question now is what that does for the perceived autonomy of the service, because basically we are saying that the post of a CBI chief and an ED director can run concurrent to the length of a government, as long as 5 years is how long a government stays, usually. And that's how long a CBI chief and an ED director can stay. How do you see it, Mr. Jain?
See, Barkha, there are 2-3 points I would like to dwell on. One is somebody called the ED and the CBI as the hounds. There's another court judgment or observation where they call it a caged parrot. So let's not get into the semantics of it. Whether the CBI and ED are the hounds or the caged parrots is a controversy which has been raging all over the country. Let us discuss about the outcome. This is for the first time in the history of this nation that high and mighty have been brought to book. Whether, see, ED has a very small workforce. The total workforce in ED probably will not be, extending beyond a few thousand employees. I think about 4,000 is the number. So many fronts they've opened, so many cases have been registered. It is very difficult for them to keep chasing each and every case on a day-to-day basis. Though it happens, officers have been designated, yet it takes time. Now, whether the Supreme Court is correct in cutting short the tenure of the ED chief, if the court has prima facie accepted the concept of a 5-year tenure, I don't know the justification why
The
it should be curtailed.
justification. Let me just attempt briefly.
There may be a judgment of 2021.
Yes,
There may be a
that's all I
judgment of
wanted to say. You're aware of
2021.
that.
I'm
Yes.
aware of the judgment. But
Yes.
despite the judgment, the government in its own wisdom has continued. I have come across a number of cases where the Supreme Court and the High Courts, various High Courts, say that there should be a speaking order for any particular decision taken by the government officers. I don't know, the same kind of speaking order business does not apply to the courts when they're appointing judges to the Supreme Court, when they're appointing judges to the High Courts. So if it is a question of the government has taken a decision within the ambit of law, within the framework of law, whether they have gone over the judgment of Supreme Court, if it is a studied decision which has been taken and the government has been able to explain it, there has to be a continuity in the cases or investigation and supervision thereof. If a particular officer has been doing pretty well and he has been able to supervise a large number of cases and taking them to their fructification of the investigation as well as to the judgment stage in a few cases, I mean, there should be no reason why the Supreme Court should take an extreme view of removing that officer and cutting his term short. I find it very shocking.
So you find it very shocking. Let me take that to Sanjoy Ghosh. Sanjoy, some could argue that the Supreme Court has overreached, as Mr. Jain seems to be suggesting. Others could argue that actually the Supreme Court has been contradictory. Now, what the Supreme Court has argued is that the law was changed after our order. And our order, our mandamus, our mandate was no further extension. So this particular gentleman, this particular officer cannot get a third term. But actually, we uphold the law or the right of the legislature to make a law that now gives 5-year terms, up to 5-year terms, I have to keep saying that, to the CBI and the ED chiefs. Is there a contradiction and an overreach in this verdict, you think, Sanjoy?
Well, Barkha, I don't think there is a contradiction. It's very important to understand, though I don't agree with the verdict in entirety. There is no contradiction because there are two aspects. The Supreme Court was looking at the individual case of the appointment or the extension of appointment of this gentleman.